When you are looking at overview of substance use or misuse, whatever you choose to call it, initially it should be substance use, because we just use these substances because they are beneficial to us for whatever reason. Again, we'll go back to PRP. Either for pleasure, either for relief, or either for performance. We have it in history. All over the world, not just African history. Arabs use grapes, they fermented grapes to enhance their enjoyment of party or association. And when you ferment grapes, what do you get? Alcohol. So it's not like Arabs never drank, or Arabs have always ancestrally, even up until the times of Prophet Muhammad, alcohol was permissible. Grapes were there. There were big vines that they were fermenting and making wine from. Those are substances. Our ancestors, we've heard it in history, our kings, noblemen, used different substances to alter their mood. And our laborers, our working class, use different substances for performance on the farm. Because if they have a huge hectare of land that they want to work on, they use substances to give them the energy. That is for performance. So please, I need you guys to remove yourselves from this mindset of just limiting yourself to drug addiction. All these drugs you are talking about, they are very recent, a couple of hundreds of years. But we have been using substances before Christ, thousands of years before Christ. So if I say, give me a general overview, I'm looking at you telling me the history of substances, what we call substances. Why is it a substance? Because it has psychoactive properties. And what are psychoactive properties? Substances that change the chemical composition or performance of the brain. That is why it's psychoactive. If it's not psychoactive, you feel the same way. You won't feel anything. But the fact that it has the ability to change the chemical composition, then it's psychoactive. I gave you guys a detailed story of the acacia plant, that is DMT. And some pastors even abuse it because they know the secret. So what they do is they cook it. They know how to cook it. I don't know how to cook it. There is a pattern to it. When you cook it to that level and you drink it before you start your consultation, you are able to see a lot of things. It's like taking you in astral travel. And I mentioned ibogaine to you guys, what the white man calls ibogaine, and what we call iboga. In history, we have used it as a rite of passage for young Africans. Once a boy hits the age of 14 in Gabon, there are different species of iboga, the iboga plant. But there is one particular one called iboga tabatina. That is the one that our ancestors have been using for boys and girls who are transiting from young adults to adults. When they enter the forest for their 14 days ritual, when they come back home, they no longer sleep in their mother's quarters. The boys no longer sleep in their mother's quarters. They are termed now as men who can take a wife and they can give them their own land to start farming. Because that leaf is supposed to transform them into a man. And I told you how some white guys discovered how useful that particular plant is in the treatment and management of opioids, and later on, other drugs, including depression and anxiety. And the pharmaceutical industry in the United Kingdom, in Europe and everything, worked against it. I have the book there if you guys want to read. And that book was signed, I got it in Mexico, from one of the, there were two Americans. One of the Americans, I got it from him and he signed it. I still have pictures of my rituals in ayahuasca. I took ayahuasca in Mexico. Ayahuasca too is a substance, but natural substance to Mexican and the South Americans. Then you have peyote. All these are substances. They are psychoactive substances. They put you in a trance. They make you see things. Iboga, they say, makes you go back to from the period of your birth. You can see yourself being born. And you can follow your journey, all the things you've done. And by the time you come back, although there is a lot of mess along with it, there's a lot of vomiting and there's a lot of diarrhea. And they say that it is cleansing you. And Iboga is the only medicine, white man or black man, native or international, that when you give it to an opiate user, they do not suffer what we call post-acute withdrawal syndrome, which happens between 60 to 90 days of treating somebody. They do not. Once it cleanses the opiates from you, you are home free. Those are the kind of knowledge I need you guys to seek. Don't be narrow-minded in just looking at cocaine, heroin as illicit, and then illicit alcohol, oxycodone, codeine, paracetamol, and all these things. It's wider than that. If we are going to make majority of Africans accept that prohibition is killing more people than legalizing drugs, you have to let them know that it is not the white man that brought drugs to us. It is not the cocaine that is the problem. When we talked about cocaine, I gave you guys an example. Colombia, the Inca tribe. This is where coca leaves planted everywhere. Family uses coca leaf to work. As they are in the farm working, they pluck coca leaf, they are chewing it, and they are working. When they are doing their naming ceremony, all visitors and guests that comes there, the way you serve alcohol on the table, they serve coca leaves. You come, you take, you chew. America, where coca leaf is not planted, how come America has more problems than Colombia and South America? How come America is going to pay for the government to burn coca leaves and discourage the planting of coca leaves when it is not harming the indigenous? But when you take coca leaf and you add HCl to it and you mash it with your feet for long until the leaves becomes a paste, and you get a muslin bag, like a salt bag, you know the bag that they put salt? You pour all the paste that you have mashed with your feet and the chemical you've added to it, you pour it in, tie it, and hang it. By the time all it's straight, you know, a muslin drains water from something and make it crispy dry so that there will be no moisture. By the time you come back, once it's completely drained of moisture, when you come back and you open it, that is your pure cocaine. That is your pure cocaine. But our ancestors never go through that. They never pour any chemical into it to process into something. The white man chooses to do that, and they got cocaine. And now they send cocaine to their country, and majority of the population loves it. Is that the crime of the Inca tribe or the Colombians or the South Americans? But then the white man says, oh no, this is dangerous. It's messing up our people. We have to prohibit drugs. Heroin, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and all those areas. The poppy plant is grown and produces the opium. It has been there since generation. Why don't they have the same opioid crisis that America has? Because they don't tap it and process it into heroin. Most I have treated in the United Kingdom for opioid addiction was not heroin addiction. It was for opium, the opium plant itself. They break it and they cook it and they drink it. And when we want to test for it, there are chemicals we use in testing for it that will separate, even though they are all opioids, but it can separate the different opiates. It can separate heroin from tramadol. It can separate tramadol from opium. Because most of the drugs devastating the West and that we are now getting above our own, they are mainly synthetic drugs. They are man-made. Cocaine is man-made. Coca leaf is God-made. The poppy plant is God-made. Heroin is man-made. So we must have an in-depth understanding. Let's come back home to what is happening to cannabis. Because when you say they are prescribing cannabis as illegal drug, heroin as illegal drugs, think back to 1933 up to 1938. 1933, during the bootlegging era, when alcohol faced the same problem. Alcohol was a prescribed substance. Alcohol was illegal. There's a book for you guys to read there, Drugs in Africa. It will show you how colonialism introduced spirits and what we used to drink from our banana, our corn, and our millets, how we make alcohol from them, and does not cause as much harm as what we are doing now of distilling spirits. Cannabis never gave us this kind of problem. It grows in different regions in Africa. Although historically, it might be growing there, but we never identified it until after World War II. The people that went to Burma, you know, you can have something in your backyard and you don't know its usefulness. But some people argue that no, it is not the Indians or it's not the soldiers who went to Burma, to war in Vietnam and Burma, that brought cannabis to us. But they might not have brought cannabis to us, but they enlightened us about the use of cannabis. I don't know. There are two different factions. The school of this thing is out there. Some says, no, we had our cannabis before. They did not introduce it to us. But pre-Second World War, in Africa, cannabis was not popular. Even if people knew, if there were people who knew about cannabis, they were very, very small. The plant was not popular at all, historically. But after the Second World War, and the colonialists had come to take our grandfathers, our fathers, they had taken them in numbers to go and fight for the empire. It was there the Indians, the Asians, the Vietnamese they already knew the secret of cannabis. They were using cannabis in rituals, in the worship of their gods. They were smoking and eating cannabis. And our soldiers, our fathers got to be exposed to this. So when they were coming back, they came back with some seeds. I will not argue that when they came back with seeds, maybe some of the elders that they met said, when the seeds start growing, say, but this thing grows in Volta. We have it in Volta. Say, show me. True, maybe it's there. Then we started using it for food. We started smoking it. And then it opened the eyes of most of our young people and radicalized a lot of people. Because that is the power of cannabis for you.